In the meantime, though, who am I to deserve such love? Those are the words of Louis Arnaud, a Frenchman, on his release from detention in Iran. Now, he was released back in the summer after almost 2 years in jail in extremely difficult conditions, part of it isolated in solitary confinement for some of that time. Arnaud had been on part of a world tour. He'd long dreamed of visiting Iran to see its rich civilization, but he was arrested, along with others, accused of taking part in protests following the death of Mahsa Amini, the young Iranian Kurdish woman who died after being arrested, you'll remember, of course, by the Iranian police. Now, in his first interviews since his release, Louis Arnaud is with us today here at France 24. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us today on the programme. 6 months since you were released. Others, of course, are still in jail. Tell us, first of all, why you wanted to come in today to talk to us on the programme.
Well, I wanted to come to give testimony of what I've experienced, of the conditions in which foreign hostages are being held in Iranian prison, and especially in Evin prison, and to sensibilize the opinion and authorities about the destiny of the French and other citizens of Europe hostages, and of the repression, the absolute repression that the Iranian people and the political opposition are being subject to.
So let's be clear, you've been released, but others haven't, have they?
Exactly. We were 7 French hostages at the peak. Now 3 of them are still there. I was certain that at that time we would be at least 2, if not 4. It was very hard for me to see that only one of us would get out. But also, along with Olivier Grondeau, with Jacques and Cécile, there are also some other European hostages. One of them is Dr. Jalali, who's been in prison for 9 years, almost 9 years now, Swedish citizen, and he's still on death row.
And you were in contact with all of them while you were inside?
Nope, because Olivier was detained in Shiraz at the time, and regarding Jacques and Cécile, they are still in the detention center of the Secret Services.
And you know what that's like. Tell us what it's like.
The Secret Services detention center called 209. It's a name that all Iranian people know by heart. The typical detention conditions are a cell that is roughly 8 square meters with no window. You don't know if it's day or night. You have 24 hours lighting, and you live under the surveillance of cameras that spy on your every move. You are being treated like an animal. Actually, everything is done so that you are deprived of your humanity. You live, eat, and sleep on the floor. You are being shouted at. You're not being taught at, you're being shouted at. Barking would be the word. And you are taken for fresh air once or twice for 30 minutes, once a week. And that's all. You are completely shut from the world. The world ceases to exist. The only thing that reaches you are the screams and the yells of other prisoners coming from nearby cells. And you are completely also shut from your family, and even more from the embassy, of course. During the 6 months that I spent there, I only had 3 phone calls of only a few minutes each time, and tightly monitored, and sometimes even directed. I was being told what to say, and that's all. And these calls are more there to add to the psychological distress than to help.
And those calls were with family members or with the authorities?
No, with family members only. Now, it is important to understand that these conditions are there, and this torture, and this is the word that we need to use here. These people have become masters in torture. This torture aims at, when they take you to the interrogations, blindfolded, that you will confess what they've decided that you need to confess. Those can be either signed confessions or sometimes even filmed confessions, like it was the case for Cécile and Jacques.
How on earth do you cope with that? Or do you not cope with it?
It is a very long topic, and there's many ways, and each person survives in the way they can. When you survive, it is important to understand that in this place there is no easy day. Every day, every hour, every minute is a fight for survival that drains the whole of your forces. And every day you are on the risk of collapsing, because you will reach that point on some day. Now, I've spent 6 months in that place. That felt like 6 years. Olivier Grondeau also spent some time there. Now, Jacques and Cécile have been there for almost 3 years now. I have met and encountered many other hostages from many different countries, all with stories more horrible than the other. But I've never witnessed so much violence, and I'm extremely concerned with this, because even if I spent myself 6 months there, I cannot even begin to imagine the physical and emotional distress they are in. And there is absolute urgency to take them and Olivier out of there.
So is enough being done to try and make that happen?
I don't know. I have my full trust in the French ambassador there. Now everything is behind the curtain, so
You have no way of knowing.
there is no way of knowing. What I'm trying to do here is my own part. This is the only thing I can do.
And it's not just, of course, French people and people from Europe and Westerners that we're talking about here. There are many, many Iranians also who find themselves in similar positions.
I was deeply moved by the way any kind of political opposition to the regime is being treated with absolute brutality. At the beginning of my detention during the protest, I met with hundreds of protesters, hundreds of them among the tens of thousands that had been arrested. Now, I've witnessed the way they have been handled, and for them, there is no limit to the amount of physical, psychological torture, pressure, and blackmail that they can be subject of. I've seen people with broken ribs, broken arms, broken legs, with strangulation marks on their necks. If we are only talking about the physical part, and of course it's not the only part. And also, I've lived in the second part of my detention with many, many political prisoners from many different movements who are being sentenced to prison time of 5 years to sometimes up to 30 years. Some of them have been executed. Some of them are on the way of being executed, and they are in distress. They feel very much that they are being left alone.
Of course, you were accused of being part of the Mahsa Amini protest with no evidence at all. And it's inevitable, isn't it, that a lot of other people who are also in these centres are in a very similar situation. Maybe they did something which us here in the West would consider completely normal, just joining a demonstration.
Well, in my case, I didn't join the protest myself,
Exactly.
and there was no proof. I mean, I was sentenced to 5 years with absolute no proof. For them, yes, it's the Iranian government called it the illegal protest, but yes, one of them that I met, Mohsen Shekari, who got he was the first one to be executed at that time. When we met, he told me, you know, Louis, yes, I got to the streets, but you know why? It's because I just wanted a normal life with a normal job that pays enough so that I can have a little bit of freedom and live a normal life. And he got executed a few weeks later.
Finally, just what are your feelings about the whole situation in Iran? I mean, do you see any sign of hope? There have been, of course, many demonstrations, many people trying to fight back against the regime, which so far have been curtailed. Do you think there will come a point where the people are able to express themselves freely and to go about their lives in the way they wish?
I'm not sure I'm the one who should be answering this question. For me, the message I want to convey today is triple. The first one, the urgency, is to take out the French and other European citizens who are being detained in Iran. There is absolute urgency to come to their rescue. That's point one. Now, point two is to sensitize to raise awareness among European authorities and among Europe that there is a hostage diplomacy, there is human trafficking going on in this country that has been going on for 45 years, but has come to extreme levels in the past years. And Europe needs to do something about it so that this finally stops. And the third point is, I don't know what Iran is going to be tomorrow, but the European authorities need to condemn much more firmly the atrocities and the human rights violations that are going on a daily basis in this country.
I mean, we do see things turn around. Hopefully we're on the verge, for example, of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Things change, don't they? But that pressure is needed to make that change happen.
There is hope. I have hope.
Good to talk to you on the programme today. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to us. Louis Arnaud, who was in detention in Iran for 2 years, as you heard there from his testimony, for 6 months in that situation of solitary confinement. But thank you very much for coming in and talking to us on the programme today.
Thank you.